Welcome to the Achieve Success Podcast. I'm your host, Nathaniel F. Holmes. Each week, I feature ordinary people who have accomplished great things. Tune in to get inspired and receive tips that'll help you reach your goals in business and life as you strive to become the best version of yourself and achieve success.
Right. So, thanks for joining us, Whitney, and I appreciate the time. Appreciate you being generous with your time this evening to give us some insight. So, you and I,
Of course.
know each other through social media only. We were, or we are part of a pretty sizable business group, Black-owned businesses on Facebook that was started by Amir Young. And, I've kind of just watched you from afar. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
So what I do, actually a behavior specialist, and I support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the state of Georgia. So I own and operate Leaf Behavior Support, LLC, and I'm also Chief Operations Officer for Community Direct Services, Incorporated. So both businesses talk to each other.
Is this something that you went to school for, or is this something that that found you? How did you get into this field?
So I was actually a special education teacher a few years ago, and I remember meeting two students in particular. One student had undiagnosed ADHD, and one student had an undiagnosed learning disability. And I was going through my master's program at the time and taking a special education course. So of course, when we're first learning something, we're all hungry and want to go save the world and put those skills to the test and all of that stuff. So I was actually able to utilize a lot of that knowledge to help those parents get the necessary diagnoses for their children, which in turn helped them flourish. So my passion for special education continued to grow from there. I then relocated to Maryland and started working under a non-traditional public school system that focused specifically on young adults with autism and severe behavior challenges. My love for behavior grew from there. I majored in sociology for undergraduate. So I continued to learn information and applied it from there. And while at that school, it just occurred to me that the law really only requires support for children up to age 21. After age 21, they do not have to receive services by law. So my concern was what would happen post-graduation to these kids.
Right. Now, is it that concern? Did that concern then lead you to form your own practice, your own business? How did that transition? Because you kind of already had something going where you're working for the school system. But now it seems that you're in, the private sector rather than the public sector. So how did that transition happen for you?
So I actually started Leaf when I was working with the two young boys at the previous school that I mentioned. It was a tutoring service at first. So I was solely focused on tutoring. So once I moved to Maryland, I had to evolve. One, because I learned the trends in tutoring. And the trends in tutoring are a headache. There are high seasons and low seasons. Mm-hmm. I just did not want to deal with when it came to tutoring and being able to maintain a consistent cash flow. So I learned early on that I needed to attach another service and pick a niche. So my niche became special education. And because I loved the population I was supporting, it turned into supporting young adults as they transitioned out of high school, learn skills beyond high school. So I can recall the last school that I taught at, these young people had severe, behavior challenges on top of an autism diagnosis, and we were still expected to issue standardized tests. That bothered me because these people were not going to utilize these skills at all. They just weren't. So I felt it was more important to teach life skills. I remember several times I would get into these little tidbits with the principal because I was telling parents what to say during IEP meetings because they didn't understand the jargon, what they needed to request, and make sure things were done. And I was just going against the lesson plan. I was teaching how to make sandwiches, how to utilize the microwave, how to measure laundry detergent, how to stop the sink, how to wash dishes, how to wipe the table. So then I discovered that there was a service need for that on the other side. And then that's how I ended up in that space.
Right. That's awesome. It's always interesting for me to see, or to hear how people either transition into or move into an entrepreneurial atmosphere. And a lot of times, it really boils down to the same thing. It's the recognition of a need for a product or a service that, gets people to transition. But along with that need, there almost always is an innate desire to provide said product or service. And then those two things kind of meet, right? It's like, hey, I really have the desire for helping people. I want to help people that have these specific needs. And then no sooner than that, you find, oh my gosh, there's an entire population that could use this service. And then it's like a perfect mesh. And a lot of people don't necessarily have it happen that way. Sometimes they are forced into entrepreneurship, for one reason or another. And sometimes it's not a situation where it's necessarily a natural fit. What challenges did you have in terms of making that transition from the public sector and what you were doing and into the private sector as an entrepreneur?
Oh, I was scared crapless. I remember the exact day when I walked away from teaching. I had what was called my advisory team. So I had an advisory team for about 2 years at that time, that any idea I had, I would bounce it off of them. Any major decisions I wanted to make as it pertained to business and things of that nature, I would run it by them. So I recall this particular school, they chose to play a little game with my praxis, and any fellow educators out there know how big the praxis goes and getting state licensed and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, I was conditionally licensed at the time, but I was scheduled to take, I remember these dates, I was scheduled to take my exam on January 4th, 2016. And the school, the principal and her boss came to me and said that if the test wasn't taken by December 31st, I would be reduced to a paraprofessional. Well, that wasn't going to work with Whitney because Whitney was Master's Plus. Not that anything is wrong with a paraprofessional, but nothing about my skill set says $12 an hour at that point in life. So I called my team and I said, I think I'm going to quit. And they said, go for it. And I'm in my head like, you're not supposed to tell me to go for it. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. You're supposed to tell me to calm down and figure this thing out. And I remember my dad, he was like, I love my dad. He has no filter. So he said a nice French word.
Right.
I'll put it like that. He said, it's going to be fine. You're amazing. My fairy godmother, as I call her, she said, you're going to be phenomenal. You do this. This is, sometimes you just have to jump. Mm-hmm. And another guy I actually met in a business group. I don't know if you remember this. My brother, Jim Price, he suggested the same thing. He said, you're great. Go for it. Let's talk about your plan. So he was my main accountability partner when I walked out of teaching. I was terrified. I had these 2 little faces that I could not let down. my son was, I don't even think he was 2 yet. And my daughter was 5. So, my mission every day after that was keep your house, keep your car, feed your kids. Those were my goals every day when I left the house. So, it took me really creating a village. I was able to make good friends with the young lady who was watching my kids at the time. And for a period in life, after that, me walking away, I only saw my kids to wake them up and put them to bed. I was gone from home from about 7 a.m. till about 9 or 10 p.m. So she became a second mom to my kids, and I will love her forever for that period of our lives. I woke them up, bathed them, clothed them, gave them a snack, but she was the one who gave them breakfast, lunch, dinner, and immersed them in her family, put them for naps, watch little milestones they had going on, and would take pictures, send it to me throughout the day, videos and things like that. And every time she would send me a picture, I was just like, this is why, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
to see the other side of that is, whew.
Yeah. Well, there's two things that you just said there that, I don't want to glance over, and I'd like to highlight. One, you said that you had a team. You call it like an advisory team.
Yes.
I think that it's very important that our listeners and followers understand that your success is truly dependent upon the people that you surround yourself with.
Oh, most definitely.
Absolutely. And you were in a situation to where you had already built your team out. And when the time came where you had to make that decision, it was so important to have the support of those people that are around you, because there are many people out there who have ideas of, hey, I want to do this or I want to do that. But because of the people around them, they're not taking action. They're not making those moves, because they'll tell, they'll say something to someone, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? I don't think you should do that. That sounds silly. Well,
Yeah.
if you did that, well, what's going to happen with this situation? What's going to happen with that situation? So it's key that when an individual has an inkling or an idea that they want to do and accomplish something, it's very important that we surround ourselves with people who, and we say it a lot, and we said it a lot in the Bob group, like-minded, right? We say that all the time, like-minded people, like-minded
Absolutely.
individuals. But it's not to be taken lightly. It really is truly important that you surround yourself with people who have the same mindset as you, to help you, because sometimes we even doubt ourselves. Sometimes, like you said, you knew deep down inside what the right answer was, right? But nonetheless, still, you're, oh, well, what do you guys think? You already knew what the answer
I
was. You
knew
knew
it.
it was time to go.
Do it. Everything was lining up too perfectly. Like, okay, this is the end of this road.
Yeah.
Here. And I think I don't want to neglect the fact of something you just said as well. And I think it came up in my Facebook memories today, that you are a reflection of the 5 people closest to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in a memory from years ago. And, the people I had around me at that time are still present.
Yeah.
But I've also added a few more people around me. So I have 2 millionaires that I, surround myself with. I have a financial advisor that I consult with on, various things. So as you grow in whatever space that you're in, you start learning what type of people you have to have around you.
Yeah.
And my friends are doing the same thing. I love them. I love them to pieces. But if we can't talk about money at some point in this conversation, I'm probably going to tune you out. I don't want to hear about the housewives. They're rich.
Right.
On my off days, maybe, but that's very seldom. I'm always doing something.
Right. Yeah. And then you also talked about just taking the leap, or taking action. You also talked about the sacrifice that it took. A lot of times we look at someone who we feel is successful or who has accomplished something, and we see the end result, right? We don't see all of the trials and the tribulations, all of the sweat and
Woo.
tears that were put in for them
Yes.
to get to where they are,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and that's another reason why, you know, I want to have this forum, because it's me personally. I kind of go through that in what I'm doing now. So right now I'm in automotive sales, and I've been doing it since 2017. Yeah, since 2017. So, and I've managed to, you know, achieve a certain level within this short amount of time. And there are some, you know, when new people come in, they kind of look and they're, oh yeah, I want to do what you're doing. I want to be like you. And it's very humbling, but I'm thinking to myself, they have no idea, right, of the work that I put in to get the results that I get. And it's funny because in the course of a day, they may not ever see me with a customer at my desk, but from the time I go into the time that I leave, I'm working on something. If it's
Right.
not calling people, it's emailing or texting. And if it's not that, I'm going to shoot a video or something. You know, I'm posting something on social media, and it's just something that they don't necessarily see. And it's important that, you know, kind of how you just said that. Hey, look, for a couple years, my kids had another mom. You know,
Absolutely. I cut off TV. I'm just starting to get to a place where I may watch TV and I don't know what's on currently. I'm watching Netflix or Different World. So my girlfriend's like, every time I talk to you, you're watching a Different World. This show is like forever years old. I'm like, look, I like it. But
yeah,
for a few years, I didn't watch TV. And I was thinking to myself one night, I was working on, Leaf at the time. But I was like, am I really giving it all I got? I knew the TV lineup for that whole day. I was on Thursdays, ABC. I was glued to the TV watching Scandal, How to Get Away with
Scandal.
Murder. And I had the whole lineup for the week. And I was
Right.
just, one day I was like, this is crazy.
Right.
How much progress am I going to make if I'm watching TV at night? I could be doing something. So I cut the TV off. I just start watching TV again last year.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I'm the exact same way. We don't have live TV.
For what?
Right. You know, we stream, but I can absolutely understand that, because I'm the same way. I have no idea what's on TV when I come home. And my family will tell you, when I come home, the laptop is open. If the laptop's not open, I'm upstairs in the bonus room on the big screen with the computer hooked up to that.
Right.
Either working on a website, or, researching something, or planning my social media post, or, so those, and people kind of take that for granted, because in this much time, you could waste 2 to 3 hours watching TV and do absolutely
so
nothing.
fast. And I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I'm not saying work like a slave. I'm not saying don't make time for yourself. That's what worked for me. My vision was just too big for downtime. I wasn't comfortable. Relaxing is for people with money.
Right.
Like, how dare you take a nap? You're broke.
Right.
You're worried about the remote man being outside for your car.
Indeed.
You're worried about your babies walking in and not having lights or having food. How dare you take a nap? So that's where my mind was at that time.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
Just like, for what? Relax for what? If you relax, you're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you talked a little bit about it, but how did you get to where you are now, to this place where, you have your own, you have your own business, your own entity in Leaf, and then you also are chief operating officer of another business that, obviously there's some synergy there. Is the reason why that, why you're able to kind of put those things together. But how did you get to that level? What did you do to get from, Whitney, you need to get your practice done 2 weeks earlier than what you were supposed to, and, kind of being somewhat at the mercy of someone else, right? To the place where you are now, to where, for the most part, you're probably in control of your, of your quality of life and how you want to do things. How did you get to that place?
I will say when you do the work, everything else will line up the way it was supposed to. So I walked away from my job teaching in 2015. By fall of 2016, I was COO of that company, of the company I'm at now. Mm-hmm. So, and it was proposed to me that the company I was currently growing, which was Leaf, could operate under this corporation and have access to those resources to still grow my programs. But the owner was very impressed with the strides that I had made. He watched me on social media for years. You never know who's watching, right, and what they're looking for, and that we could collaborate and do that. And at that time in my head, I'm like, I was literally considering going back to a job.
Right.
I had just accepted a position somewhere making $55,000. Mm-hmm. At that time, I was like, ooh, and I could set my own schedule, see my babies, $55,000 in Maryland, barely any money, but I was happy.
Right.
And I got that opportunity to do that, and I took it. And it was one of the best opportunities I, could have ever made, the best decision ever. And the owner has completely taken me under his wing. I feel like I am a better person all around. I'm definitely a better entrepreneur. He's challenged my thinking. And I just look back, I'm not even the same person I was a year ago as it pertains to business decisions and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time he told me, you need an advisor. You need a financial advisor. I was like, for what? I don't have any money.
For all this money you're about to be making.
Well, he said, you won't have any money if you don't have an advisor. And two, if you have any money, you should know what it's doing. And I was like, ooh.
That's good advice. That's good advice.
All money you have, I don't care if you have $50, it should be doing something for you.
Right.
And that's another conversation on how to make your money work for you. But, that was a nugget that he gave to me. And that's now somebody I have on my team, my financial advisor. Yeah. So I have a whole money team that I talk to as it pertains to student loans, credit, investments, all that stuff. Right. And then I have my entrepreneur people, and then I have my original advisory board that I sound off on ideas and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of reading. My Think and Grow Rich, Power of Nice. Today I did Who Moved My Cheese Again. I listened to TED Talks in the morning. So I had to shift my thinking. Remember, I went from Leaf only having 3 contractors. I moved into chief operations officer of an organization that had over 100 employees.
Wow.
That was big. I had to learn a whole lot in a quick amount of time. So I spent time, one of my advisory members, Jim, he said, sweetie, you got to watch some YouTube. YouTube University has everything.
Yes. Yeah.
I started spending my days on looking at the difference between leaders versus boss. How do leaders speak to their employees? How to influence employees? How to time management. That was a big one, because a lot of people think when you're in charge, you just float your day. No, I still have a schedule. I wake up in the morning. I have a routine. I wake up in the morning. I meditate, have some tea, work out, I read, I listen to a TED Talk. If I'm not reading, I'm listening to a TED Talk every morning before I start my day. And then I end my day. And I'm very stank on my time. Yeah. A lot of people, my friends, will joke, I need to get on your schedule. We need to have girl talk. Okay, when do you want to talk? Yes, you do have to get on this.
Right. Yeah. No, that's awesome, because, that's something that, I wholeheartedly believe in, is the power of having a success routine. And, if you do not dictate your day and plan your day will dictate to you what will happen.
Yes, absolutely.
And oftentimes you will end up being unproductive for that day because you did not approach your day with intention, right? Yeah. You have to have intention about what you're going to do. Yeah.
You have to be intentional. I have goals. I still write down many goals. By Friday, I need to see this. By this day, I need to see this. And once you see this, you can take a day. You can relax. So I have plenty of lazy days. So when I break, I break.
Yeah.
But when I'm not, I'm working. I'm proving why I'm taking the break. I'm celebrating when I'm on my break.
Exactly. And
Friday has nothing to celebrate.
and that's important for people to do is, you've got to, you said the way you got to where you are is by hard work, and there's nothing wrong with hard work. It's absolutely important. Yeah, work hard, but you also have to make time for the relaxation. And that's something that, I need to work on, because if it's up to me, I'll work every day from sun up to sundown. Like,
Yeah,
I'll just
my
work.
children keep me balanced, because if they weren't here, I'm sure I'd definitely be around the clock. But they're my why.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always tell them, we did this, babies. We have business meetings with them. This is what mommy's working on this month, so this is what it's going to look like. Right. So Sundays, I typically don't do a lot of work. I do a radio show on Sundays. Other than that, I don't do that. I have certain times of the day, like when they get out of school, I'll leave the office at 2:00. So from 2 to 6 is uninterrupted time. My kids only. My phone can ring. I'm not picking it up. Right. 2 to 6. After 6, they're pretty much over me at that point and want to do their own thing. So then I'll resume calls, emails, whatever. Right. But I really structure my time. When it's their time, it's their time. If it's a kid vacation, I don't want to deal with anything else. I'm with my kids. Right. I'm on a girls' trip. I don't want to deal with anything else. I'm on a girls' trip. So family, same thing, So it just, structure really matters. And I think the way, if we're self-disciplined enough with ourselves, it will reflect in our business.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. If you could go back in time, I know it's not going to be very long for you. If you could go back in time and give some advice to your younger self, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't stop dreaming. I've never stopped dreaming. And what's interesting is I knew early on I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what that meant. I knew I wanted to own a business. I didn't grow up seeing business owners. I just knew I wanted something different than what was around me. So I remember in college, I did hair. I tried Mary Kay. I tried Avon, like you name it. I was doing it. Right. And I don't knock any of those things. I think doing companies of that magnitude, I think people refer to them as MLMs right now. They have great learning tools that can empower you as you go into your own business. Exactly. So that's like, I also have a thing with World Financial Group that I do. That's investments. So I'm an advocate at heart. If I know you need support with investing, I'm going to connect you with that. So I would just tell my younger self, just keep going. I would probably make sure I made better connections in college. I think a lot of the connections I made in college are great, especially because I was in a professional business fraternity. As a sociology major, I was in a business fraternity. I wanted to know this stuff. Right. So I made phenomenal connections in college, but I think I would have been a lot more intentional with them had I understood what networking really meant at that time. I didn't learn what networking meant until late in my 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned a couple of books not too long ago. So, and one, you actually pulled it out. My gosh.
Think and Grow Rich or Power of
Yes. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. So that book, Think and Grow Rich, is probably the second most influential book for me. The first was, I would probably have to say, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was the first book that I read that actually just...
I haven't read that one yet. I heard it's a good one.
It is. It just opened my mind up to the idea of entrepreneurship and being a business owner. And then, like in most books, authors, make references to other works and to other authors. And that kind of started me down that whole path of personal development. But Think and Grow Rich, absolutely, it's a book that just opened up my mind to the possibilities of
I don't think that's not on any successful person's reading list. Right. Like, I haven't met a successful person yet that has not touched this book at some point in their life. So when I was told about it, I looked it up and it was kind of like, oh, say no more.
Right.
Let's see what's in this baby. And then I bought, the Black Choice.
Yes.
Think Growers the Black Choice.
Yes.
I haven't gotten into that one just yet. I peeked through it, but I have to read that one. And
that's a good one. It's got a lot of stories about African Americans that achieved a level of success. That's what I really like about it. I mean, it's based off of Napoleon Hill's idea, but the author of that book gives a lot of anecdotal tales about African Americans that accomplished great things, and that's what I think is the power of that version of the book. I like
the 48 Laws of Power. That was another one. That was probably one of the first ones I've ever picked up. And then I read 50 Cent's version as well, the 50th Power. Those were some of the earliest ones I picked up. So for a while, I would literally post Power of Law every day. And, even the stuff I post now, a lot of people benefit from it, but I'm talking to myself when I make these posts.
Right.
These inspirational posts. They're like, you're on it. I'm like, I'm talking to myself for welcome.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Because so I do
say, how does this relate to life today?
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I do the same thing. So on Sundays, I try to plan out all my social media posts for the week coming up, and I use IG for my quotes. So every one of those quotes that I post, I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to get myself right.
Right.
But it's amazing though how in us having this self-talk and kind of putting it out there, how is impacting positively other people who are watching. And that's part of the whole beauty of social media if you use it, if you use it for good.
Right.
Yeah. So what was your biggest challenge? And I think you may have covered it just a little bit, but your biggest challenge in terms of getting to where you are now?
Definitely shifted my mindset. That is continuous work. I can only imagine where I'll be a year from now, 5 years, because your mindset, as you surround yourself with certain people, expose yourself to certain things, your what is it called? Bounds of rationality. I don't know if you've ever heard of that phrase, but basically we will only dream as big as what we're exposed to.
That's powerful.
So I currently live in my dream house, but it was my dream house from 10 years ago. And now I posted another house a few days ago, and I'm like, oh, I'll have this, in another 10 years. I never thought me, little Black girl from Philly, raised in South Carolina, could attain such heights. So our bounded rationality stretches the more we're exposed to things, and that's when we know it's possible. So that shift in mindset, once we get out of our own way, our inner voice is the loudest voice. Our inner voice is what we hear every day, all day. You hear your inner voice before you hear anybody else. So it's up to you what you put into it. So I'm very intentional about, according to what mood I'm trying to set for myself, I'm very intentional about music. Right now, I consider myself to be in a very transitional phase of life as I'm rebirthing Leaf and all of these wonderful opportunities that have come to me, creating a village for my Leaf people, radio show, all of that stuff. So I've become very intentional with limiting even my interactions with my friends right now. And they know when I get in this mode, I'm glad they love me, because I might be a sucky friend sometimes when I get in this birth mode of my business stuff.
Yeah.
But, I'm being invited to Zoom parties and everything. My girlfriend's birthday is coming up. She sent me an invite for one next Friday. So that's on the calendar. I'm in there, sis. So I got you. But other than that, I'm just locked in. I don't want to attend any Zoom parties. I don't want to kiki. I don't want to laugh, because that's not the phase I'm trying to be in right now. I have to stay focused, but it takes strength and shifting your mindset to understand when you have to do that, when you have to shut everything out so that you can birth what you're trying to birth.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for me, that mindset shift happened when I started, reading things like Think and Grow Rich, and books like that. That's when that mind shift started happening for me. And even now, I have to daily, take in, whether it's affirmations or, listen
Yeah,
to another book on tape in order to maintain that level of intensity, and desire for self improvement. And
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing when, um, when when that starts happening, because it's like, hey, I have this goal, and then you start reaching it, and then, like you said, your circle of rationale starts expanding. It's like, oh, I can do more, I can accomplish more, I can do more. And it's like this thirst for more and more and more. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's like, look, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, this is what I'm focused on, you know so I can
mhm,
definitely, I can
yeah.
appreciate
And
that.
my uncle introduced me.
uh, so
Yeah, my
how
uncle introduced me to grounded rationality,
Mm-hmm. Bounds arrest.
and
I'm gonna have to look that up and do some research on that.
yeah, my uncle introduced that to me, and I thought that concept was so phenomenal. So even a few years ago, we would go ride around here in Virginia Beach. We would go ride around the neighborhoods with the mansions. So we rode around in the area where Missy Elliott used to live and all those huge houses. And I was just like, whoa.
Hmm.
Now I'm just like, oh, that's normal. Because I saw it was possible. I put it in front of me. So we would do that once a week, just go ride around in these neighborhoods that I thought were on Never Never Land, I guess. I don't know where I thought they were versus down the street.
Right, right.
But it's normal now. I deserve everything that's out there as long as I do the work.
Excellent, excellent. So how has this journey helped you to become the best version of yourself?
I consider myself, like I said, I consider myself an advocate and a vessel for number one. I really do believe that I'm here serving a purpose bigger than myself. I serve people. And when you do right by people, things will work right for you, number one. So as I strengthen myself, I strengthen my ability to serve people.
Hmm. Excellent, excellent.
So I
Um,
think that's been able to impact, increase finances. I've always been a giver, but it allows me to give more. So I do a lot of things, and I don't broadcast them because I don't have to. The people who I help know who they are and, receive what I give to them
yeah.
and take care of, things. So the more I do, I feel like there are people who will need me, even if they don't now, at some point they will.
Mhm.
And I don't know what destiny has in place for us to meet at what point. So if I don't do my part so that I'm there when the time comes for them to need me,
Right.
then what was the point of me being here? So we have to do our part. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's a young girl somewhere in this city that may unfortunately become a single mother somewhere. And I might need to be able to take care of her rent a month. Well, I got to do what I need to do so that I line up at that time in destiny.
Right. Absolutely.
So what I do is bigger than me. It's
Yeah.
not about me. I'm just a vessel.
That's awesome. And that's I think, um, the most beautiful part about, this journey, as, one of my other, interviewee said, this is a journey, and the beauty of this journey is how we evolve, and how we progress, and how we grow as individuals. And the beauty or the reward is not in the end. The beauty and the reward is not in the house, it's not in the car. The
Not at
beauty and the
all.
reward is in the journey, you know
Yeah.
and in that journey, dare I say, is even more so in how many others you can bring along with you. And not to say that you've got to,
Yes.
be a charity case, but, even something as small as what you and I are doing here this evening is part of that journey, is part of that process, to where, this conversation will be able to reach somebody. Like you said, someone is going to see this, and they're going to see you as themselves. They're going to see themselves in you, and is going to encourage them to start along their journey. And that's the beauty in it. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our podcast. Make sure to connect with us on all of our platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on anchor.fm. Best of all, make sure to check out the website at achievesuccesspodcast.com.